There is something no one tells you about poverty. It doesn't shout. It doesn't suddenly appear in a crisis, during unemployment, or in a bill you can't pay. True poverty is silent. It lives in your habits from Monday to Sunday, in the decisions you make without thinking, in the behaviors that seem so normal you don't even realize they are destroying your financial life from the inside out. And the cruelest part of all is that while you repeat these habits on autopilot, there is someone on your very same street with the same salary, maybe even less, building a completely different reality. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself why? Why is it that some people's lives seem to flow, things fall into place, and their money stretches, while for you, it feels like the harder you run, the less you arrive? The answer isn't luck. It's not the salary. It's in the habits that nobody sees. In the small behaviors you repeat every day thinking they don't make a difference, but when added up over months and years, they build exactly the reality you are in today. Napoleon Hill spent decades studying the most successful people in the world and reached a conclusion that changed everything. In Think and Grow Rich, he wrote that poverty is not an external condition. It is a mental state fed by repeated habits. And what most people call bad luck, he called a consequence. If you like content that truly confronts you, that doesn't sit on the fence, and that delivers things school never taught you about money and mindset, follow this channel, because what we do here isn't about cheering you up. It's about waking you up. Today I am going to show you the 10 habits that are keeping you poor. And I will start with the most devastating one of all, the one that, if you don't fix it, no other habit will make a difference. Habit 10. Living the dream that others designed for you. This is usually the last on the list almost everywhere. Here, it opens the game because it is the root of everything. Think of a person who took out a loan to remodel their house, not because they wanted to, but because the whole family was going to gather there at the end of the year and they couldn't stand hearing comments anymore. Think of someone who traded cars without needing to just because a coworker showed up with a new model and the embarrassment was greater than common sense. Think of someone who financed a party, a trip, a celebration that deep down they didn't want to have, but they didn't know how to say no to the pressure of those around them. This isn't generosity. This is emotional debt. Napoleon Hill was surgical about this. He used to say that the desire that drives prosperity must be born inside you, not borrowed from the person next to you. Chasing a dream that isn't yours is like trying to run a marathon in someone else's shoes. You will get hurt before you even reach the halfway mark. A lot of your money today is financing approval. It is buying belonging. It is paying to look like what you are not for people who might not even be paying attention. And the money that goes toward that never comes back. It never becomes an investment. It never becomes a reserve. It never becomes freedom. Habit 9. Saving money instead of making it work. Congratulations if you put money aside. Seriously. That already puts you ahead of a lot of people. But there is a trap in this merit that few can see. There are people who have been keeping money in savings accounts for years. They are proud of it. They say they are disciplined, that they don't spend money foolishly, that they have a reserve. And they do. Except that this reserve is being silently eroded by inflation month after month, while the money sits still, pretending it is growing. Keeping money at home, then, is the same as watching your hard work evaporate in slow motion. Napoleon Hill had no doubt about this. He wrote that money has a dynamic nature. It was made to circulate, multiply, and work. Idle money is not security, it is waste disguised as prudence. The fear of investing is understandable. The market is scary, the vocabulary is intimidating, it looks like a rich person's thing. But what is keeping you away from it isn't a lack of money. It's a lack of information. And information is something you can look for. Every day. A little bit. Until the path becomes clear. Those who learn to make money work for them stop trading only time for money. And that is one of the biggest turnarounds a person can achieve in their financial life. Habit 8. Telling your financial problems to those who are in the same hole as you. You get home, the numbers didn't add up, the credit card bill is heavy, and the overdraft limit is maxed out again. So you grab your phone and text your closest friend. They reply that their life is tight too. You feel a strange relief. A kind of comfort in knowing you are not alone. But pay attention to what happened there. You didn't solve anything. You just found company for your pain. And the worst part comes later. You start to think it's normal. You start to believe it's like this for everyone, that it's just a phase, that it will pass. Except it doesn't pass. Because the environment in which you immerse your conversations, your references, and your comparisons directly shapes what you believe is possible for you. Napoleon Hill created the concept of the mastermind for exactly this reason. He observed that successful people didn't look for company for their pain. They looked for partners for the solution. They surrounded themselves with people who already had the answers they didn't yet have. This doesn't mean abandoning the people you love. It means understanding that not every person close to you is prepared to help you grow. Some can only help you feel less alone in the same place. Habit 7. Not collecting from those who owe you and continuing to lend to those who have already defaulted on you. This one is twofold. And both sides destroy you the exact same way. Some people are ashamed to ask for their money back. They feel uncomfortable, they are afraid of ruining the relationship, and they imagine the person will pay when they can. Except while you stay in that position, that money is gone. And the relationship you were protecting often wasn't even that solid to begin with. Then comes the second part, which is even more absurd. The same person who didn't pay you comes back asking for more. And you lend it to them. Because you don't want to look petty, because you felt bad for their story, because deep down you still believe that this time will be different. It won't be. Napoleon Hill taught that people who prosper make decisions based on facts, not on emotional hope. The fact is that someone has already shown how they act with other people's money. Ignoring this fact isn't kindness. It is financial naivety. Before lending any amount, give a destination to that money. Decide that it already has a purpose, your reserve, your trip, your investment. When the person asks, you aren't saying no to them. You are saying yes to yourself. Habit 6. Buying on emotion and calling it an opportunity. The shirt was 50% off. You don't even wear that style of shirt very much, but it was so cheap it felt like a crime not to take it. It sat in the closet with the tag on for 8 months. Then it went into the donation bag. The appliance was on sale for Black Friday. You split it into 12 installments because it seemed unmissable. Except you didn't need that product. And now the installment hits your card every month as a reminder of a decision that lasted 5 minutes of euphoria. The cheap thing you don't need is always the most expensive thing you buy. Napoleon Hill called this a lack of self-discipline, and he said it was one of the greatest enemies of wealth. Not the lack of money, but the inability to say no to an immediate impulse in the name of something bigger. The technique is simple and it works. Leave the store. Wait 24 hours. If you still want it the next day, it probably makes sense. If you forgot you wanted it, you just saved yourself from another emotional purchase. Every small decision you make on impulse is a penny leaving your future. It seems like little. Add it up, it's a lifetime of scarcity built brick by brick. Habit 5. Using your credit card without knowing what's on the bill. Sincere question. If someone asks you right now how much you've already spent this month on your card, do you know the answer? If the answer is no, or if the answer is a rough number you guessed, you are making financial decisions blindly. You are accelerating without knowing your speed. You are buying without knowing if you can afford it. The credit card is not the problem. The problem is invisibility. When you don't track the numbers, you start living in an illusion that you are doing fine. You buy one more thing and then another because you don't feel the immediate weight. Then the bill arrives and it feels like a shock, but it's no shock at all. It is just the reality you were avoiding looking at. Napoleon Hill taught that successful people make decisions based on clarity, on concrete facts, not on feelings. A credit card without tracking is exactly the opposite. It gives you the feeling that everything is fine while reality is heading in another direction. It's not about cutting up the card. It's about knowing what is on it at any given moment. Because those who control the small numbers learn to control the large ones. Habit 4. Going to the supermarket without a list and at the wrong time. It seems small. It isn't. You go to the supermarket without a list and come back with things you already had at home, without some things you actually needed, and with others that weren't in the plan. Then 3 days later you discover you ran out of something and you go to the neighborhood convenience store, which charges double for the same product, just to resolve what the supermarket should have resolved. Now add another layer. You went to the supermarket on payday. With your salary just hitting your account, a full balance, and the feeling that you are flush. Everything seems affordable. Everything seems within budget. You walk out with a cart that doesn't reflect your reality, it reflects the euphoria of the moment. Napoleon Hill wrote that disorganization rarely starts with big decisions. It begins with small, repeated oversights that, added up over time, build a reality of scarcity that seemed inevitable but was just the consequence of choices nobody took seriously. Make a list before you go. And never on payday. 2 simple rules that change how much is left at the end of the month. Habit 3. Not negotiating. Just accepting whatever price they give you. Look closely at the word. I'm not talking about begging. I'm talking about negotiating. Begging is passive. Negotiating is strategic. When given a price, most people say thank you and pay. Or they feel embarrassed to question it, thinking they will look cheap. Except the other side of that table almost always has a margin. There is almost always a discount for paying in cash, for taking more than one item, for closing the deal on the spot, for being a loyal customer. You simply never asked. Napoleon Hill observed that one of the most consistent traits among prosperous people is the ability to negotiate with clarity and firmness. Not with aggressiveness, with strategy. There is a massive difference between someone begging for a discount and someone leading a negotiation. Next time, before you pay, ask, depending on the payment method, what is the best you can do? One question. A few seconds of discomfort. And sometimes a discount that pays for the entire week's lunch. Those who prosper negotiate. Always. Habit 2. Feeding your mind with what impoverishes it. You wake up, grab your phone and open WhatsApp. There is a group for bad news, a group for memes, a group for complaining, a group for tragedies. You consume all of that before you even have coffee. Then you open Instagram and scroll through the feed for 20 minutes without a purpose. Afterward, YouTube throws you into video after video of empty entertainment. And by the time you realize it, 2 hours have passed and you haven't learned anything, you haven't moved forward, you haven't built anything. That isn't rest. It is the waste of a resource you will never get back. Napoleon Hill wrote about the mind as a garden. What you plant, you harvest, but what you let grow without care suffocates everything that could flourish. And most people are letting the garden of their mind turn into weeds every single day voluntarily with a phone in their hand. I'm not saying to eliminate all entertainment. I'm saying there is a huge difference between resting and numbing yourself. Between consuming something that feeds you and consuming something that just occupies your space. What you put in your head every day is the material with which your reality will be built. If you want a different reality, start with what you decide to put inside your mind. Habit 1. Not having a clear destination for your money before it arrives. This is the most silent one, the most invisible, and the most destructive of all. You receive your salary. You don't have a plan. You pay whatever bills arrive, buy whatever pops up, and spend whatever is left over. And at the end of the month, you look at your account and wonder where it all went. You don't know the answer. Because the money didn't go anywhere with a purpose. It simply slipped away. Now think of the person across the street with the same salary, maybe even less, who before the money even hit their account already knew exactly where every single part of it was going. Reserve, investment, fixed expenses, entertainment with a limit. They don't have more money than you. They have more clarity. This clarity is what Napoleon Hill called definiteness of purpose. The clarity of purpose that separates those who build from those who merely survive. He used to say that a mind without direction is like a ship without a rudder. It moves a lot, burns a lot of fuel and gets nowhere. Money without a destination becomes an impulse. Impulse becomes debt. Debt becomes anxiety. Anxiety becomes more impulse. And the cycle keeps spinning while you think the problem is your salary. The problem isn't how much comes in. It is the absence of a plan for what comes in. Now I need you to pause for a second and think about how many of these 10 habits you recognized in yourself. It doesn't have to be all of them. Sometimes it's 2 or 3, and that is already enough to keep an entire life stuck in the same place. None of these habits alone has the power to destroy everything. The problem is repetition. It's day after day. It is the silent accumulation of small decisions that seem harmless but, when added up, build exactly the reality you don't want but keep living. Your bank account doesn't lie. It is the faithful mirror of the habits you have fed up until today. And the most important piece of news in this entire video is this. Habit is not destiny. Habit is a repeated choice. And choices can be changed. Prosperity doesn't start when your salary increases. It begins the moment you decide that your silent choices are going to change. In the decisions that nobody sees. At the supermarket, on the credit card, on your phone in the morning, in the conversation you choose to have, in the dream that is truly yours. Change your habits and wealth will start to recognize your address. If this content confronted you in a way you didn't expect, share it with someone who needs to hear this. And tell us in the comments which of these 10 habits you are leaving behind starting today. Not tomorrow. Today. Follow the channel because here you don't just learn about money. You learn about behavior, about mindset, and about the kind of person you need to become to build the life you want.